It's better, it's bigger. It's A-1 Appliance. They've expanded and now they carry much more in name brand appliances. Like GE Appliances, they have the largest capacity over-the-range microwaves. GE is the #1 manufacturer of refrigerators in America. Or find the largest capacity washer and dryer pair you can buy. With GE Appliances, you'll find exactly what you need. For the best selection in name brand appliances, come to A-1 Appliance in Nashville and Columbia.
I'm Jim Shear. I started A-1 Appliance Company. I was born in Benton, Missouri, a town about the size of Lobelville. And we lived in a small house in the quote city. And I have 5 brothers and 5 sisters. My dad had some farmland which he raised beans and watermelon and wheat, but we didn't have a lot to live on when we started. So I know what it's like to have a little bit of nothing. And it's a lot better now having a lot more than that. It's worth the price paid.
Growing up, my dad worked for the Maytag Company, and for 10 years before A-1 opened, he traveled around and visited appliance stores and would drag me along when I wasn't in school. And I got to see all kinds of appliance stores all around the country. He kind of set me up for this job, I guess you could say.
I spent 10 years working as a regional representative for Maytag Corporation. Relocated several times and moved to Murray, Kentucky, and then moved to Mountaintop, Pennsylvania. And when they were offering me another opportunity, I told them I wasn't interested in that.
My name's Jack Stauffer, and my story starts with Jim around 1980. I graduated from college, went right into Maytag, and he hired me as a service rep. So for the next few years, Jim and I were riding around the country all over Middle Tennessee, and he would set up meetings and I would train guys how to fix Maytag products. One thing about Jim Shear is that he could pitch a product, and you could see the foundation being laid for his start at A-1 Appliance.
Jack Stauffer and I were friends. We both worked for the Maytag Corporation for a while. He was always around for advice and bounce things off of him and see what he thought about it.
While I was still in service, Jim took me to this old rundown, I don't know, ice cream, insurance building, and then it had a dog kennel in the back. And we were looking at it, and Maytag came out with this thing called Green Machine. And basically what it is you would take a building, preferably close to a stoplight, and you'd paint that thing green. And green was supposed to stick out so people would notice it. He actually entertained, hey, Jack, why don't you start a business here? I said, Jim, I have no money, I have no family, I have nothing. I said, you have no money, but you also have family. I said, you've got a wife. I said, you have 2 sons coming up. I said, it'd be perfect for you.
When we first started, it was Steve, myself, and Pat, my wife, and John. They didn't have much money, so I leased it for 5 years. After that time, the company was making enough money to where we could buy the building, and it took care of itself. Thanks to Steve.
On the building, little arrangements of potted plants of all kinds. We do have a wall of refrigeration.
As I recall, A-1 Appliance officially opened in February of 1982, but I recall being here at the end of 1981 preparing for that grand opening. It took a few months to get the place ready. I was working across the street at a pizza place at the time, so I could work here during the day and go work at the pizza place at night.
I've been at A-1 Appliance since the beginning of the business in 1982. A big part of our business at that time was selling used appliances. Usually the product that the customer didn't want anymore, we'd bring back. Oftentimes we could put parts and labor into those appliances, and that seemed to help quite a bit in driving the sales initially with the business.
We believed in servicing the products that we sold, and nobody else was doing that. The other dealerships did not have service departments, and that was one of our selling points.
If you Google anybody, how do you get to be first? You have to pay to get your name ranked up in Google. People weren't as smart back then, so they had these phone books, and it was just in alphabetical order. So if you went to an appliance store, A-1 was before Bob's Appliance and Carl's Appliance and David's Appliance.
We began to hire people as we needed them for delivery and train them in service. And then we got into selling quite a few dishwashers and wall oven, so we needed to get somebody to do installing of those products.
Years ago at a training session on how do you show somebody how big the capacity is in a clothes dryer, that you can put a lot of clothes in there. At the time, Maytag had made a much bigger dryer than they had previously.
But one day I remember Steve came down and he wanted to show us how big a Maytag dryer was.
He puts his rear end first, ducks his head under, and then he brings his knees up and then jumps in.
And he said, now shut the door. So we shut the door. There were about 3 of us there. And we held the door shut. And Steve was snacking. I said, okay, let me out now. Let me out now.
There are advantages to being a smaller sized person.
Jim painted our first service van inside of that little shop in the back. And the paint ran off of it. And I'm going, oh my gosh. Anyway, he redid it and it looked pretty darn good. I especially remember the sidewalk out front in the old building. And Jim said one day, I'm gonna have a sidewalk put in. And he never looked at the checkbook. He never knew how much money we had. And I said, Jim, how much is that gonna cost? Oh, about $500. And I said, we don't have $500. Well, it's too late. They're coming to put the sidewalk in. And I'll be darned, that day we sold 5 appliances and we had enough money that we could put the sidewalk in.
Many times we talked about what was a vision that Jim and Pat had through time. And he always wanted to make the thing larger and more inviting for the community as a whole in the area here where we're at.
There was a car wash next to us, and Phil Disser owned the car wash. And I remember he came one day and said, Jim, would you like to buy the car wash? Jim said, sure.
The store was wide open at that time when the new addition was built, or the new building. Basically all that came down except for one section out here in the warehouse. And the other part we continued to operate and sell on a daily basis. Jim and Pat went through a lot of high pressure situations because trying to get people in and out of the property and have parking and things like that, because that stayed tore up for a long time.
That Sunday we moved the office and everything over into the big building and mowed down the old building, and it took about 30 minutes. And Jim and I stood out there and cried when we saw the building going down. It was like, no.
That was Jim's vision through time to have that done and to make it a nicer place for people to shop.
It's just kind of amazing for me how it went from this little bitty lime green building, it was just a little bitty place, to what it is now. And I know Jim kind of had the vision to get it here, but I think Steve has since taken the ball and run with it.
I've done virtually every job that's here. I started out doing delivery work, sweeping the parking lot, cleaning the gutters. I learned to do appliance repair. People ask me what I do, and I say I define reality and give hope.
My name's Carla Conley. I work at A-1 Appliance.
My name's Kevin Spear. I moved from Denver to here in 2005.
My name is Andrew Thickpen. I work here at A-1 Appliance. I've been here for 2 years. I work in the warehouse service department.
In sales.
I'm one of the managers.
The office manager.
The old fart or the senior sales professional.
I've been an employee of A1 for 7, 8 years, something like that.
6 years.
14 and a half years.
13 years.
23 years.
25 years.
5 years.
11 years.
2 years.
22 years.
1 year.
Just about 3 years now.
I've been working here since 1999.
1988.
1996.
2000, I believe.
I started here at A1 about the first week this past December.
I made a few phone calls to some of my coworkers, some of my peers at my previous employer, and started asking around about what appliance places I should be looking at or talking to if I was to consider a move out here into the Nashville area. So I got a list of 3 or 4 places that I should check out, and A1 kept coming up top of the list.
I was working for a competitor, and they were thinking about putting a luxury appliance store in the Nashville area. And I had the opportunity to shop all of the competition in town, and unequivocally my best experience was here at A1. The showroom was great, everyone was friendly, I was waited on immediately, I felt welcome, and nothing against anybody else in town doing this, but it was a different level of experience.
I tell people who are not familiar with us that we're a very unusual store. We're a small family-owned business. We've been here 36 years. And the main reason that we won the Small Business of the Year award is because we have the best looking salespeople in town. But I'm not one of them, so.
Steve and I sat down, we had a long discussion about the future of A1. We said, it really boils down to we only have so many resources. We only have so many people, so many technicians, so many delivery guys, so many salespeople, so many employees that can only do so much in a given day. Do we want to really inundate ourselves by being everything to everybody, dealing with Frigidaire and the low end and the cheap stuff and the high end stuff as well, trying to fit that in, or do we want to just focus on being the best we can be?
When you wear an A1 uniform, you step into a lifestyle that people expect you to be better, which we do. Which is, it's kind of nice. It gives you pride to be driving around an A1 van or wearing an A1 uniform. Because not only the customers, but other appliance service companies look up to you as a standard.
It's a real point of pride to be able to represent brands and service brands that we know people are going to be pleased with.
I get to install some of the coolest appliances you've ever seen in your life. It's a lot to take in. At first I was nervous. I'll be honest. When I first started here, I was like, I've never seen, Wolf and Sub-Zero, Viking, JennAir, and all these high-end appliances. But now it's like breathing to me. I'm comfortable with it.
People replace their phones every year or 2 years. They're looking for the latest and the greatest, but the timeline on something like that is so much faster than what people traditionally expect for appliances. And we get the opportunity to offer things that really do last, that we really can service and find parts for a long time. We're looking for the latest and the greatest, but also the best. We're a service company first and foremost, and we want to make sure that the experience that our customers have is not just great during and after the sale, but way after the sale.
I am a service to the community because appliances break, problems happen, and often there's an event that weekend. There's a bridal shower at the house, or it's somebody's birthday, and somebody else is being able to be in a position where I have the time to listen to what somebody actually has going on in their home and be able to then go look for a technician who can add an extra call to their day, or we can rush a part so that we can take care of that ice machine so they have it for the party that weekend.
Anybody can sell a refrigerator. I mean, you got somebody here worrying about it from the time you take your order to the time, years later doing the service. I mean, there's just you can't compare.
Steve's always, I think, and Pat and Jim too, they've always been very attuned to when customers do come in the door that someone is there to greet them, to see what we can do for them.
If you're really good at selling somebody something that'll last them a long time, or you're able to repair something in a timely fashion so they can get back to work, they're more grateful that you saved them some time more than saved them some money.
I've been fortunate to be recognized as one of the top appliance sales professionals and most knowledgeable in the state, and I feed off the synergy of a team around me, I got excited about the prospect of working on the team of the best, which is what I consider A1 Appliance to be.
Try to lay out what is the job that you do. Give them tools to make that job as easy as possible for them, and remind them that they've got all the skills they need to make it happen.
The freedom and control that I have here, and being able to be flexible in the store and out of the store, and that it's kind of like being self-employed but having the resources of a big company. We have our own installation team. It's not hired out, it's no third party. There's 43 of us here, so everybody works for A1. And we also have our own service team. We're the only appliance dealer in town, actually within a couple hundred miles, that actually services what we sell.
I like to get in here early and get everything done for the day, which allows the people, when they come into work, that they are ready to start doing their job instead of having to get ready to do their job. Paperwork, product, everything is ready for them to go, load, and get their job done.
I feel like Brian's kind of like my uncle. He seems to really care about the guys that he has in his circle right there delivering, and he always checks with us, make sure we need everything, we got what we need. If there's any pieces, tools, materials, rain jackets, coats, anything like that, he's got us covered.
These are all machines, and they occasionally have problems, and we have to work with the manufacturer with the warranty. And the owner, Steve, has us here and gives us the time to thoroughly work through those situations with the manufacturer and the customer, and to keep the customer involved and updated on what's going on. I'm never rushed to get off the phone with a customer or with a manufacturer. I have time to go the distance and follow things all the way to the end and get them the best quality service that is possible.
We try to stay on top of the latest cutting edge stuff, from appliance innovations to displays.
It's not just like your big box store. You come in and just see appliances lined up, where you can just go by and pick out one. We have vignettes so people can see what kitchen appliances would look like in their home.
Time change, you have to grow with technology, and especially in Nashville. This is the #1 growing city in the country right now. So, I think he's doing awesome to keep up with technology and keep up with everything else that's going around it. Recently got new trucks, of course, and I love my Silverado 3500.
One of the most amazing things that's happened to us recently is we were the world's first to get a new JennAir experience display with an entirely new set of products that JennAir decided that they wanted to unveil at the most happening spot in the world, and they narrowed it down to just a couple of locations, and Nashville had to be it. A1 had to be it. People came in we had the president of Whirlpool and an entire busload of people from Whirlpool and JennAir Corporation, along with designers from all over, come in around the holidays, just as hard as it is to schedule, just to see this display and get excited about these products and see what JennAir as a company is trying to evolve into. I'm going to brag about it for years. When was the last time anybody could say, hey, you were #1? And guess what? At one point we can say, and A1's done it time and time again, we're #1.
I'm not a real big country music fan. I've had people come in here that are country music stars, and after they leave, somebody else will say, hey, you knew who that was? No, that was so-and-so. Oh, okay, well. But anyway, again, I've treated them just like I've treated anybody else, and they still got good service and still enjoyed shopping here.
We always make sure we take care of everything. We cover floors, countertops. We don't just throw our tools around. If it's rainy outside, we're always wiping our feet, cleaning our feet.
The level of customer service and attention to detail that we provide is, I'm quite certain, unmatched by others.
Previously, it was all about how many calls you could run in a day. So, okay, you can run 8 calls. Okay, can you run 9? Okay, you run 9 now. Can you run 10? All right, you're running 10 calls a day now. You need more money. All right, run 11 calls. And you're talking about running 10 to 12 calls in an 8-hour day. It's just difficult to do without cutting corners. So I went to my technicians and I said, all right, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut calls down to 6 calls a day. And their mouths just dropped open. They're like, we're not going to focus on the number of calls. We're going to focus on the customer experience.
With most companies, they're looking at a call like, get it done, get out of there, get to the next one. You know, I've noticed this with a bunch of other techs as well, being on 2-man jobs, that we're actually spending the time and talking with that customer, getting on a personal relationship with them. And I think that that's really important, because if the customer can't trust the technician, you know, they're not going to know if the appliance is fixed or if they paid too much or, you know, what have you.
Most of our customers also, they are repeat customers, and some of them, they know you by name, and most of the time, and once you do work for them, they like you, they request you to come back and do work for them. And sometimes some of them will not even be home. You call them, you said your name, they already know who you are, and they will just come and they said, okay, I'll leave my front door open, here's where the key is, or here where the codes are, and then you're welcome to go in and then do your job.
You try to not just be a technician, but a lot of people want to let you into their lives when you're into their house. And they've got problems, and they like to talk about them. And if you're a good listener, they like that, and it kind of helps with the experience that they're having with whatever problem they're having with their appliances. But if you go into their house all snotty and act like you don't care, then the total experience is not real good.
I've got a client right now that I'm working with that shares my interest in playing trumpet. And so every time we get together or talk about his project, we end up spending about 15-20 minutes on the phone or in person just talking about playing an instrument. And I think it really humanizes the whole process.
I've had people bring me pies because we gave them such good customer service. I have multiple thank you notes, lots of letters. Steve often brings in a nice letter, somebody who took a lot of time to explain to him what care either the install team or the service team took with taking care of their situation.
Steve Scherer is Pat and Jim's older son. He is our very active owner and president. He's in the store every day. I would follow him everywhere. He is a business genius, and he is an honest man, as honest as they come.
I first met Steve probably 25 years ago when he had hair. And we were, the first time we met was up at Western Kentucky University at a class that the General Electric company had.
I always believed Steve had a lot of capability, but when I came back to the business, it just really blew me away. His participation in the Bishop Hoban High School Future Business Leaders of America obviously worked pretty well. He's really done a fantastic job maintaining the business and growing the business. He's overly fair, in my opinion. I've got too much of my father in me. I think old school, crack the whip, but in working around Steve now, I had to kind of retrain my thinking, and it's made me a more patient person.
Steve has always been right there helping me out. No qualms, no questions asked. You know, hey, my kid's sick, take the day off, go take care of him. Hey, my wife's in the hospital, go take care of her, no problem at all.
He is a very empathetic, sympathetic, compassionate guy. I know he goes out of his way to help people when they need help.
Like any job, it starts off as a job. You know, a means to pay the bills, means to make the ends meet, but that is not what it ended up being for me. A-1 has meant so much to me and my family. Steve has given me so many opportunities, and the Scherer family in general has given me so many opportunities. You know, Steve didn't know my background, didn't know me for anything to take a risk in making me the service manager. And, you know, he even said, I'm taking a chance on you. And, you know, from that day, I've always had great loyalty to Steve.
I do look forward to my years coming here. I've
I've been told that I can pretty much climb the ranks as I need or as I see fit, so that's a very encouraging thing to hear from the owner.
If you do a good job for Steve, he does amazing things for you.
Back 2010, when my house was a wreck from the flood, he was one of the first people to show up to offer help and to let me know that I could take all the time I wanted and come back to work when I got my life back in order.
The owner's here every day. He keeps track of the repair department, he keeps track of the sales. He knows what's good for our customers, and he makes sure that we have what's good for our customers here.
We was born on the same day, along with Mr. Obama. We always get a kick out of that whenever our birthday's coming up. Steve will always come up to me and I say, happy birthday. He says, happy birthday. And he says, well, you reckon we ought to call Mr. Obama and wish him a happy birthday.
Steve kind of looked at me and he thought, all right, I got to teach this guy something. So he said, you come with me. So we go upstairs to the warehouse, and they used to stack the dryers and washers 2 or 3 high. And he said, I need this dryer. And I said, okay, I'm not real sure exactly how I should do that. And he goes like this. And he crouched down and he just leapt like a frog and he clamped onto the side of this box where the dryer is. And he goes, you just grab onto it like this and you pull it. And I'm thinking to myself, that's enthusiasm.
Steve Shearer does not have to have this business, I don't think. I don't know the man's finances. I think he could close this store tomorrow and be satisfied and live a comfortable life. But Steve tells us he does it for us. Who does that?
Can't emphasize so much on how much they treated me like family. Here it is, 30 some odd years later, and I pop by here, monthly it seems. I bought countless appliances from them. I don't go anywhere else. I know the service that they provide. Nothing's changed.
Coming from a corporate environment and then, being treated just like a number, and then coming over here and you're actually talked to by name, and it's just a really big difference.
I was talking to a guy from Lee Company, and I asked him about a former employee that worked here, that was working there, and he'd never even heard of him. And this guy had been working there for 10 years. So, they don't even know each other. Where here, everybody knows everybody.
One thing that they do around here, which I think it's awesome when you're a new guy, they walk you around the store and introduce you to everyone in the store. No, that's comfortable. That way you're not nervous, and they just want you to feel like you're at home. And I think that's why I love working here, because it's like a second home to me.
I came from Chicago, Illinois, where I worked for another appliance company for 28 years. My wife said, if we're gonna have grandchildren, we're moving. So we moved. I got really lucky, and I say that and I mean that, because the people I work for at A-1 are really great people.
My expectations upon retiring from the Army were somewhat low, in that I didn't think that I would be able to come to an organization and have such a strong family connection. But again, fortunately, I do have what I would consider a very strong, good replacement for my Army career. And that's a huge relief.
Coming here and finding out that A1 offered positions Monday through Friday for retail, for sales, was just unheard of. So the opportunity to come here and be able to have a place that puts family first, that wants their employees to spend time with their families on the weekends, be with their kids.
When my grandbaby Addison would come stay with me on a Friday night, there was times that, I'd have to get up on Saturday morning, and that was our time. We always got up, watch cartoons, and cook breakfast for everybody, and just had, Addison and Papa time. And so that's back now whenever she spends time with me.
So I have a 19-year-old son, and I was blessed to have a 5-year-old daughter. And she keeps me moving pretty regularly. So and it's great, the flexibility here in the hours.
Worked here for several years, left and went into business on myself, out on my own. Steve and Jim actually were a big part of that and really gave me a hand in that transition. I went into the appliance service business.
Any holiday, A1 always did something special for all the employees here. You know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, like you said earlier, you know, get hams, turkeys, bonuses, you know, just everything.
One of the benefits of working at A1, the compensation package is tremendous. We offer retirement plan. The company will match your investment in your retirement plan.
I'm able to provide for my family in a way that I never thought I'd be able to.
It's been a great blessing to my family. We recently bought a house this year. So I have a lot to be thankful for.
It has completely turned my life around. I have a beautiful house now with a yard. Me and my dog we have enough space to just open up, relax.
I met my wife here. Think about that. Back when I was in the delivery department, I made the delivery to her house.
I had a daughter and she was only 4 or 5 years old, and I didn't want her to kind of grow up in New York and the area where we live in. So we moved here, and then since we're all happy to be in Nashville and raising our family.
I've tried to hire people that are way smarter than me about how this business works, and they're the ones that make it happen.
You know, I've had offers to go elsewhere, but I've always turned them down just for the fact that it's an easy place to work. You know, everybody gets along with everybody, and they don't expect you to do things that you can't do.
If we do have anybody usually leave, it's usually somebody younger. They want to go back to schooling, or they're moving back out of state, or whatever. But most of our employees have been here for a lengthy time. You know, I'm not going anywhere.
Some of the other people have quit and come back, and when they went to quit, I'm like, the grass is not greener on the other side. It's just not. You'll get out there, and they come back and they're like, you're right.
It's a huge success story. I mean, in a place that just, you know, shouldn't have been here. You know, should have been somewhere else in a big part of town. And but I think the area was just perfect. It needed this type of business.
We are part of Nashville, and that's changing every single day as people flood into Nashville. And it's a great opportunity for us to grow, but it's also a great opportunity for us to show new Nashville the roots of Nashville.
It all worked, and it went together well, and it just was meant to be, I guess. What do I know?
I have found that if you want to know something, you go to somebody who has a roadmap or the recipe to get to where you want to go, and listen to them and don't pay any attention to the others. For instance, when I went through college 4 years, I don't think I ever saw a millionaire teaching me. So I don't know how they could teach me to be wealthy if they're not wealthy themselves. So you got to go out and learn it on your own.
How we made it, I don't know. But we did. We did.